will move now to Mr. Omar Shenety. This is the U.S. World Reserve currency, is unbalanced. So tell us what's happening in the international markets. First of all, thank you so much for this kind invitation. Thank you so much because you always invite people that we benefit from. I think if we tackle this issue, mar-a-lago Accord, from two points of views, from the financial markets point of view and the commercial view. Before we present the slides, I have 5 points, and then these slides are going to show my point of view clearly. First of all, the changes that are mentioned in the mar-a-lago Accord are not simple changes, are not only related to the currency price. These changes, as Mr. Abdelhamid said, these changes are actually fundamental. It's a change in the international system after the World War II and the establishment of the World Bank, the Trade International Organization, and this trend, this is a new trend. I don't see that it is a Trump trend 100%. No, actually, there is a protectionism trend. Also, during the time of Biden, there were obstacles for the Chinese exports to the USA, especially for the AI ships. There was a kind of preventing specific companies, but not with this amount and not in such a violent way. I think we need to. The second point is the difference between the goods and the services. I have goods and I have deficit in the goods, but I have a surplus in the services. This is something they don't see it. I think that they don't see it. I think that the Americans, and when we read, we read from their own point of view. I'm going to be in his shoes. I'm going to wear his hat. The financial market, how the financial world think. For sure, they read the numbers. Actually, there is a trade deficit on the goods level, but there is a surplus in the service sector. I think that they are doing this because of reasons, of some political reasons and some economic reasons. So if we look at the mar-a-lago Accord, in my own point of view, it's not 100% a wise one. It's bigger than this. The economic war between the USA and China, that it goes back to a long time ago, which is totally different than any kind of conflict between the USA and any other country. The conflict between the USA and the Japan is different. The conflict now is between USA and China. It has a different nature. Wherever there is a chance for the clash, it will happen. China, we were saying China, they are coming, but they are not going to be involved now. They are not going to be involved unless they are sure that they are going to win. So every debate, let's delay the conflict. Let's delay the conflict. So what will make a country like the USA? It doesn't mean that I'm convinced. I'm trying to think why they are doing this. Just bear in your consideration if the American president is adopting this system. There are very big businessmen. They don't approve on this. They saw that their companies, that they are losing 30% of its value in the market. So for sure, this businessman, there is something happening. There is something they are thinking about, and we don't know. If we want to read, we have to read from different point of views. From the USA, we read Bloomberg. We read from the Financial Times. It's a little bit spectacle on what's happening, which is totally and a different school, which is the Chinese and the Asian point of view. I imagine that there is a huge fear for the USA as a country and as an economy and businessman, that China is stepping ahead in manufacturing. And this in the past 30 years didn't want to be involved. I don't want my people to work in manufacturing, in oil, in whatever. So let's work, outsource whatever we send to China, to Vietnam. Let's build tech hubs and innovation, and to have financial centers and a tech center in San Francisco, in the main areas. And we are happy like this. We don't mind if we have some oil hubs in Texas, but the outsources, the low-paid jobs, let it be for the Asian countries. But what happened is the Asian countries, on the top China, they had a long journey during the past 30 years. So they were not only a manufacturing hub, but they had a kind of accumulation of wealth, and they start playing big political role in the form of the Asian Investment Bank, in the form of Chinese investments that are happening in Asia, in Africa, in the form of relations that are not only that this is a second category country. What happened is that the USA in the past years start influencing with what they are good at in tech and IT. There was a decision that Android are forbidden to sell the mobiles to Huawei. I bought an Android mobile, and I cannot work with Huawei. So what happened? It was a big shock, and then after this there was a kind of obstacles to export specific items like chips. It was forbidden to be exported to the USA. So if you remember the last time that we wrote a report, the influence or the impact of China in the import, it was double in the last 10 years. The USA know that we are coming to tackle this point. Where is the surprise? The surprise is the USA were controlling the AI and the tech. The competition was zero, and that was the appearance of the DeepSeek, the investment that was done by China for long period of time in the technology infrastructure. The Chinese universities that we have graduates that of very skilled youth, better than the American ones. They became so. There is a huge tech knowledge. China is ahead now, and this appeared that we have a new technology like the DeepSeek that compete the ChatGPT. The Chinese, they are very precise. If this will cost $6 billion or $600 billion, the problem is that these people were able to compete. We prevent from them the operating system. They establish an operating system. We did not import NVIDIA chip. Huawei launched NVIDIA chips. So what I see that this is my monopoly, I am abusing it in the wrong way, and this will say why the big technological companies, they are supporting this trend, because now, for example, if the China will be able to replicate this technology, so it's over. No Facebook, because China, yes, they don't have Facebook and WhatsApp, but they do have WeChat. Yes, they don't have Facebook. They don't have Yahoo. They don't need Google. They don't have WhatsApp. They don't need Google. They don't need Instagram. They have a super action that has everything. So now, today, if I'm looking, why this madness? Because the last point that the USA was controlling was the AI, the technology, and the infrastructure technology. And whenever they will set a barrier in front of the Chinese, the Chinese are able to overcome the barrier and to cross the barrier. So the businessmen were supporting. So let's do some exceptions, but nobody said, nobody announced that what's happening is wrong. Those people, me after 2 or 3 years, my company will not exist because they are going to develop more and quicker. So what's the results? The results 2 points inside the USA. We'll see the inflation, which is stagnation and inflation. Inflation, as you know, and that's the worst combination that might happen. I have stagnation, but the prices are low. If I have a high inflation, but the economy is calm, I will. But the mix of this is very bad, and the USA did not witness it since the 70s, and it suffered from it. And up till now, they are suffering. They are proud of Volcker, the federal president, that he raised the profit rate in the beginning of the 80s in order to reduce the inflation. Sorry. So the USA did not witness, my generation and the previous generation did not witness this inflation, even if they agreed tomorrow that, okay, we are going to solve, but there is 10% minimum tariff, 10% for a country that used to import with a zero tariff. When you see the inflation 2.5%, and we see that we still have sticky prices, and let's wait that this 2.5 will reach 2.1. They are not talking about 10 or 20%. They are talking about half or 0.5%. And up till now, there is no retaliation. The other point is the impact, destruction for the supply chains, empty shelves. The department stores are empty. The department stores and the online sales companies like Amazon, they will say we are going to increase the prices. So I think in the coming quarter, we are going to see this impact, this inflation impact, and we are going to see a couple of graphs to show this. I wanted to make it clear. What about the other countries? And here I mean the developed countries. There is decoupling. There is an isolation between the USA and Europe and China on the other side. And we are going to see this in the financial markets. People are very afraid from the US market. They don't know what about the resolution, what about the decisions, when they are going to issue the resolution, why they are issuing the resolutions and the decisions at 2 a.m. Why not at 12 p.m.? Why all the press conferences happened very late? So there is a kind of so people are drawing back from the American market with the devaluation of the dollars. I'm not going to buy any bonds, and that the currency of this country is going to decrease about 10%. And this is the reason that the European bonds, they lost about 20% in the American market. 10% of it is devaluation. Up till now, Europe is a package, either in the currency policies or the financial policies, enhancing the defense sector and the construction sectors. In China, we have for the first time what's called the decoupling between what's happening in the USA and what's happening, and the route of the China and the European Union. This is part of the reality that we are living, and we see this clearly. And it seems that the fund in the USA are not upset. So the markets are open, and everyone is doing its own setup. What's happening now, as it looks violent, it might be with reasons. I would like to know how the person in front of me is thinking. Then the huge desire in destroying China is a political desire. And I think that this is happening because the USA is feeling that they are losing the technological competition. This is a graph showing the uncertainty in the American economic policy in the last 3 or 4 months. We have in the financial market, we have the VIX indicator. So this VIX we saw with 2 weeks was 50. When it was with 15 or 20 people were screaming, we saw it 50. So this is the economic side. that I don't know what's going to happen. We don't understand. The uncertainty impact lots of things at increased by mean of time and has a huge impact on the exports and the real exports and the real GDP. This part is the reciprocal tariffs that the USA announced on the Liberation Day. The American president announced it. The minimum, the least company is 10%. The minimum of the tariff, assuming that these countries abused the USA in the past years and export to the USA cheap products and cheap goods, and did not allow the USA to start manufacturing and establishing factories. So he imposed this tariff. There are countries that 10%, 30%, and China, they start until they reached 145%. So these levels did not happen before because after the World War II, fragility is decreased. It's a graph as if the curve is decreasing. So the first time to see the curve is not stabilizing, but actually it's turning around and as if it's flying. Even they agreed on 10%, this is a kind of increasement, and this is a damage that happened. To what extent in the last 3 months succeeded for the first time to see the USA after COVID start to recover? We saw a kind of reduction in the growth was in 2022. Now in the first quarter in 2025, the USA, we have a kind of contraction in the growth rate in negative. So the economy is retrieving. Why? Because there is no clear vision, because the company are importing a huge amount instead of manufacturing. There was a news that Apple entered to the USA 10 million phones. This did not happen before. The inflation rate up till now, we imagine that it's going to be clear in the coming period of time. The rate decreased twice last year. Once was 0.5%. This year is supposed to decrease or reduce the profit rate 2%. The expectation was the average 2%, and this is a huge amount for the profit rate. It's not predictable that this is going to happen. The Federal Reserves, they are going to announce what they are going to do. Most probably he is not going to change the profit rate, so we are going to have a huge debate.
As we talked about the insurance, what happened in the insurance, it's exactly what happened in the announcement in Accord. It started the catastrophe trade. The first 4 months in the year, the deficit happened in the trade sector because the American policies has not the ability to in place the export as overnight. Because it took 2 years. No one do the overnight. And if we return to the World Trade Agreements, they are all WTO rounds because they take 4 or 5 years. It doesn't finalize in just 2 weeks. It takes a lot of time. The unemployment rate, we can see that the employment rate will come back and will increase, and it's a good rate. As a consumer, the trust of the consumer or the businesses, the first quarter of the year, we can see that there is a deficit rate, and if you're talking about the financial market, we can see that it increased somehow. As what happened in April, we hope we will not see it one more time, and I don't want to work in it, and I don't think no one hope to work once more. I don't want to see that markets decrease by 10 or 15%, and they have the hope. No one understands anything because they are not aware of the impacts. It's very, very negative, and a damage happen, and it happens because they are unaware because of the finance market. the dollar is somehow a good element, and some people comment on it before. We can see that dollar is decreased against other currencies, and it's a big issue because we are talking about a deficit by 8% to 10% in the first part of the year or quarter of the year. As Dr. Abla said, America wants to decrease the currency in order to enhance or the exports, so that their product will enhance or will be enhanced against other countries. And the exports that America work have a great surplus of it, as Facebook or Google or Amazon. They are very high margin. It affects negatively in the American companies, and we saw that before. There is a decrease in this price, and it affects negatively in the financial market and on the bond market. Everyone looks about the increase of Dalton. No one saw about this sector because it's a very big sector in America. It has major players, and there are many funds, American funds in it, and Chinese and Japanese and European are the major players. This market, if it happens, a damage in it, but hopefully we rarely see it. So the American president attempt to decrease it. So, everyone one says it's not for the American president, because America are not sure that they are aware to cover it. So there is a concern that European or agents or the American funds are afraid to buy American assets, because the dollar will decrease by 10% or 5%. So America will lose 5% per year. So why do I do this? So it's somehow a chaos. When the financial markets comes, there are the decrease or deficit, because in every graph there is a decrease, and I didn't see it before in any market around the world. People say, hope it will go on perfectly, but everyone was affected, because who take loans, they are negatively affected. But Warren Buffett is the only one who didn't affect, and they will deliver by the end of the year, and there is some chaos. He worked 60 years, but at the end he found out that this is not worthy. So the market is in its worst case scenario. The bond years, the cost, when we see the cost, America will be increased and Europe will be decreased. If we saw the China and Japan and Germany, the cost of the bond yield is decreased, because there is a stabilization. As people see that Germany is stable, and there are plans that they're working towards it, but Japan is somehow changed, but China was decreased. Regard that China has a lot of labor. If we saw the last thing, the ECES, the cost of it, or the cost of the loan, we need to insure the loan in order if I wasn't able to pay the loans. America's loan was increased. As you see in the left graph, in the last 2 months, it is increased. As in the past, the risk-free rate was to U.S. Treasury bonds, because America will not damage totally. It's impossible, as we learned in the university, and Dr. Abla teaches us. If you are in an issue, go on the U.S. Treasury bills. But now it's a risk, because if you buy it and after 2 weeks you will find the dollar decreased by 5%, and I took 0.5%, so I lose 4.5%. So my benefit is to put it in the bank. So to ensure in the America is not stable, and it's unpresidential rate. we will find Germany will not increase as America, and America and Japan as well, and these countries can accept itself in a large way, in somehow. I to sum it up, what happens now is according to the world order. Yes, there is an impose encouraging it, but there are some businessmen encourage them, and I'm not from that. I don't agree that capitalism are the damage thing. I'm not very accepting it, but they are not aware, or they are not ready to see they're losing their money, except they find that they instead, or the plan B will be more respected. Thank you so much. Thank you, Omar. Your words are always very attractive, and we have an action movie that we are watching. The conclusion that you came up with, that put your money in the Egyptian exchange because it will be worthy. This is the most important thing in the whole matter or whole topic. And I would like to congratulate you for your analysis, because it's somehow strange the situation in the short effect negatively on in America. They can see it, but the American consumer cannot hold 2 or 3 years because there is an increase in prices. They calculated it wrongly. They see it, but they put their consideration in the long term, and they focus on how to destroy the China and the Japan, and it's threatened the world and makes the world all fear about that China is a bad country, but it's an economic force that should take its position in the world, and America tries to stop it by their measures. And the mar-a-lago matter is somehow political, more than political than economic, and it should be so in this trend, but they calculated it wrongly, because what they are doing is the technology, the retaliation is decreased, even in the Russian war and the China war, to unite. The story is full of details that is calculated wrongly. The damage of the bond market that people see nowadays, and the plaza car, the European countries that depend on this in defense, they buy the bonds to finance the deficit. So there is now a risk. So the deficit they're working is not a finance. The other countries are not under their control as it was before. The last point, which is very important, that there is a new world order in making. It's very dangerous, because I'm talking about for 2 years there is economic order in making, but it is independent. It's very dangerous that we cannot see, and some countries like us, which is the south part, is part of the player, because the order from the World War II is not valid anymore. The players are not the same, the power is not the same, either population or resources or youth or anything. So the new economic order, we try to protect the multilateralism. We should think which multilateralism we are looking at, and the reform internally is not worth, because it plays around the same main players, and the important player is America. The topic is very interesting, but I think we draw the attention towards this point.